Imagine pouring months of sweat and heart into your dream home, only to have the neighborhood president rip it up literally after day with her SUV. I know, it sounds like a joke, but that's how it started for me. If you've ever wondered what happens when you finally get pushed too far, buckle up, because I promise this gets messy. One early morning, the neighborhood snapped awake to a sound like a gun showed a sharp bang, a groan of twisted metal, and the hiss of air pouring out of a tire. Folks jerked their heads up from coffee mugs, blinds flew open, and garage doors creaked up. Right there in the middle of my freshly planted lawn sat Colleen Stratton's silver SUV, tilted at a sad angle, front tire shredded, the grass chewed up beneath her wheels. Colleen, the president of our homeowners association, the queen of clipboards, clutched the wheel like it was a lifeline, eyes darting from her car to the rubbernecking neighbors, and then to me, standing across the street with my arms folded, not saying a word. That's when the whole neighborhood finally realized the Cold War between us had just gone nuclear. But this story, man, it wasn't just about a pop tire. It was about respect, power, and what happens when two people decide they're not backing down. Let me back up a sec. When my wife Leah and I moved to Westbrook Estates outside Charlotte, I felt like I'd finally made it. 44, working from home as an IT consultant, and for the first time ever, I had a house with a real yard, a place for my kids, Parker and Sienna, to run wild. I spent that first summer turning that patch of Carolina clay into something worth showing off, sweating, planting sod, shaping flower beds, watering like the grass was a newborn baby. Neighbors strolled by, waved, shot the breeze. It felt right. But Colleen, she was a force of nature. Sharp-tongued, sure of herself, clipboard glued to her side. If your garbage can was out 10 minutes too long, you got an email. If your mailbox leaned, she had a note about paint colors. At first, I figured, hey, some folks just like rules. Live and let live, right? But then came the tracks, her SUV, cutting across my grass. Not once, not twice, but every single morning, wheels crunching the edge of my yard before climbing right over the corner. The first time, I chalked it up to a mistake. Maybe she didn't see it. But then I saw the ruts deep, muddy, splashing up on the driveway. I just pressure washed. Something in my gut twisted. That evening, I walked over as she unloaded groceries and tried to keep it neighborly. Hey, Colleen, just wanted to mention, I think you drove across my yard this morning, left some tracks. She didn't even blink. Yeah, I do that sometimes. It's quicker than driving around. Don't worry, it's not hurting anything. I tried to explain the new sod, how fragile it was. She just smirked. You don't understand how things work here. I've been here since they broke ground. We all cut across when we need to. And that was that conversation over. It wasn't just the tire marks. It was the way she dismissed me like my work, my pride, meant nothing. Inside, Leah asked what she said, and all I could do was sigh. She basically told me it's her neighborhood, not mine. From that day on, every morning, I watch her roll over the grass. I just nurse through another hot night. Every rut, every muddy streakless an accident. More message. Other neighbors saw it too, some shook their heads, but nobody crossed Colleen. She was the HOA president. Challenging her was like inviting a tornado into your life. I tried to stay patient. I wrote a polite note, folded it, taped it to her door. Colleen, please respect my property and stop driving through my yard. Let's avoid conflict. Next morning, the note was gone, but her SUV was back, carving new wounds in the grass and splattering my mailbox with mud. I stopped waving when we passed on the street. Stopped trying to pretend I wasn't angry. Leah noticed. This isn't about grass anymore, is it? She asked one night. No, I said. It's about her thinking she owns this place and me showing her she doesn't own me. But Colleen wasn't done. In fact, she seemed to double down. One Friday, my brand new mailbox was plastered with mud like she'd gone out of her way to hit it. I lost it. I stomped across the street, banged on her door. She opened it with a smile that could freeze water. Well, hello, Bryson. What's the emergency? I let her have it, told her I was done being polite. She leaned against the frame, arms crossed, and said, Do you know who you're talking to? I've been the president here for 15 years. You'll regret this. I walked away shaking. The next morning, I watched her cut across my lawn again, waving at me like we were buddies. That's when I decided Enough was enough. I wasn't going to fight this with notes or neighborly talks. No, Colleen only understood consequences. So I spent the night in the garage, pulling out steel spikes from an old project, digging them in low, right where her wheels always cut across. Call it trap, call it payback, call it whatever you want, but sometimes you've got to make your point the hard way. Morning came. She rolled out at 7:40. Same routine, same smug look, and the moment her tires hit the grass, bang. The whole neighborhood heard it. Her SUV jerked to a stop, front tires shredded, hissing air right in the middle of my yard. Neighbors spilled out in bathrobes and slippers. Colleen's face went pale. She got out, circled her car, and then locked eyes with me across the street. "Did you do this?" she shouted. I let it hang for a second, then said, "You did it to yourself." The neighbors murmured, some stifling grins. Colleen stormed across the street, mud streaking her sweatpants. "You sabotaged my car." I kept my cool. "I asked you to stop, Colleen. Actions have consequences." She called the cops, sure she'd get the last word. The cruiser rolled in, lights flashing. Colleen pointed at me, demanding my arrest. The officer listened, then turned to me. I explained she'd been driving across my yard for months, ignored every request. Leah pulled out her phone, showed videos of Colleen's SUV cutting across, mud flying. The officer raised an eyebrow, then said, "Ma'am, that's trespassing." And just like that, the crowd gasped, and for the first time, Colleen didn't look so untouchable. The officer left without arresting anyone, but the damage was done. Word spread fast. Some neighbors clapped me on the back. Others just watched from behind curtains, not ready to pick sides. But Colleen didn't go quietly. She sent out a neighborhood email, community standards, and safety. She called an emergency HOA meeting. That Thursday, the clubhouse was packed. She stood at the head table, SUV key fob beside her like a badge. "Recent events have threatened our harmony," she intoned. "One resident has installed dangerous devices." I stood up, cut her off. "Let's be clear. I protected my yard. The only reason your SUV was damaged is because you were trespassing." I played the video for the whole room her car, my lawn, day after day. The crowd murmured, then a few started to clap. Colleen slammed her clipboard, adjourned the meeting, stormed out. But her grip was slipping. A group of residents started a petition to remove her as president. Neighbors who'd whispered support before now brought casseroles to our door. Still, every day brought new complaints: trash cans, porch lights, basketball hoops. She wasn't done, but she was losing. But here's the twist, life never gives you a clean win. Parker came home from school, eyes wide, asking if we were getting kicked out. Leo worried about the toll this was taking on us. At work, I found myself missing deadlines, distracted. I was letting this feud take over everything. Are you going to let her control your life? Or are you going to move on? Leah finally asked. It hit Abe. Standing up for yourself isn't just about fighting back. Sometimes it's about refusing to stay silent. Then came the night of the final vote. Clubhouse packed. Mr. Wilkins stood up, voice shaking but loud. I moved to remove Miss Stratton as HOA president. The ballots went out, neighbors marked their votes, and when the count came in, it wasn't close. 18-5. Colleen was out. She grabbed her clipboard, spat, "You'll regret this," and stormed out. The next morning, Parker and I knelt in the yard, reseeding the torn grass. "Dad, why did all this happen?" he asked. I thought for a long moment, then told him, because sometimes people forget that other people's space deserves respect. If you let someone keep crossing a line, they'll do it until you stop them. But maybe I should have found another way sooner. Standing up for yourself doesn't always mean fighting back the same way sometimes. It just means not letting someone walk all over you. As the sun went down, the neighborhood felt lighter. The grass was scarred, but it was ours. Leah squeezed my hand and said, "You taught everyone here that even the loudest voice doesn't get to trample everyone forever." Maybe that's true. Or maybe next week the fights start over again, who knows? That's life in the suburbs, right? All I know is respect isn't handed down by authority or demanded by power it's earned. And it's mutual. And if you don't fight for it, you'll end up with nothing but MUD. So let me ask you, where do you draw the line? When does standing up become going too far? Drop your thoughts below. Was I right? Was I wrong? Or is this just what happens when people forget what it means to be neighbors? Let's hear it.